A very good day, everyone. Welcome to our channel, BioScholars Academy of Learning. So, in yesterday's video, we discussed about what is cell signaling, and we also studied about the intracellular receptors. So, moving on with the extracellular receptors, in today's class, we will be studying about a very important topic, that is G protein coupled receptor. A very important, and it's my personal favorite topic, okay, that is G protein coupled receptor. Okay, so what are GPCRs? They are receptors which are coupled to a protein called as G protein. Okay, that is a basic understanding of this. So they are the largest family of cell surface receptor that transmit signal via the action of guanine nucleotide binding protein called G protein. So this G here stands for guanine nucleotide binding protein. That means what? These G protein are able to bind to either GTP or GDP. Okay, they are able to bind to either GTP or GDP. Then GPCRs, they include receptor for many neurotransmitters, neuropeptides and hormones. Okay, so they are made up of a single polypeptide of multipass nature. They cross the lipid bilayer 7 times, and hence they are called the serpentine receptor. So they are single membrane, but they cross the plasma membrane 7 times, and that's why they are called as serpentine receptor. Okay, so G protein, otherwise called the GTP switch protein, they are of two forms. One is your trimeric form and other one is your monomeric form. Okay, so they are usually made up of 2 or 3 proteins called alpha, beta and gamma. Okay, we shall discuss about that in the next slide. So G protein is turned on when bound to GTP. This is very important. It is turned on when it is bound to GTP, and it is turned off when it is bound to GDP. Okay, so G protein is nothing but it's a protein to which the GTP or GDP goes and binds. Okay, so when GTP is bound, the G protein is turned on. When GDP is bound, the G protein is turned off. Okay, so first of all, this is your G protein. It is made up of alpha, beta and gamma. This is what we call it as heterotrimeric G protein. Trimeric means 3 subunit. Hetero means 3 different subunit. Okay. So what happens is, we'll go here. You can see here, when there is a signal or signal, when there is a signal means, signal here means a binding of a ligand. Okay, when there is no signal, you can see that the G protein is bound to GDP. When there is no signal, the G protein is bound to GDP. But when there is signal, this GDP is replaced by GTP. Okay, so when GTP is bound to this trimeric G protein, you can see the separation of the alpha, beta and gamma. So the alpha subunit gets separated and the beta gamma subunit gets separated separately. Okay, so what happens? This is your serpentine GPCR. GPCR is G protein coupled receptor. This is your G protein. Okay, so whenever a hormone or a ligand comes and binds to the GPCR, this GDP is replaced by GTP. And this replacement of GDP by GTP causes the activation of the alpha subunit and also the activation of the beta gamma subunit. Okay, and that is when all your signal transduction pathway begins. This is a very important topic you have to understand. Okay. Now, this alpha subunit defines the basic properties of your heterotrimeric G protein. 17 different types of alpha subunits have been identified. Okay, here you saw, no, this alpha subunit, you have 17 different types of alpha subunit that are there. Okay, there are 17 different types of alpha subunit that are present, and what are those? Example is D alpha S, G alpha I. So one activates adenyl L cyclase, and the other one inhibits adenyl L cyclase. Then we have G alpha T, it's a transducin. It activates another enzyme called CGMP phosphodiesterase, and G alpha Q activates phospholipase C beta. And this is a very important table. Okay, it's very important. Questions will be asked based on this. Okay, we shall see how it activates. Okay, fine. So this is a ligand. It is going to bind to your GPCR. This is your GPCR. Okay, this is your G protein. Okay, once the ligand is bound to the GPCR, you can see the G protein is activated. Okay, you can see when GTP is bound to G protein, it means it is activated. Now what happens? This leads to the activation of an enzyme called adenylyl cyclase. Okay, it leads to the activation of an enzyme called adenylyl cyclase, which is going to convert ATP, adenosine triphosphate, to CAMP. CAMP is nothing but cyclic adenosine monophosphate. This is a secondary messenger. Very important to understand. I repeat, the ligand binds to the GPCR. It activates the G protein. The activated G protein produces or helps in the synthesis of an enzyme called adenylyl cyclase. So what does adenylyl cyclase do? It converts ATP into cyclic AMP. This cyclic AMP is a secondary messenger. Okay. Now, there is here we have an enzyme called CAMP dependent kinase or protein kinase A. It's called CAMP dependent kinase or protein kinase A. It has 4 subunits, okay, 2 regulatory subunit and 2 catalytic subunit. What this CAMP does, this CAMP binds to the regulatory subunit, okay, and as a result the catalytic subunit is free and it moves into the nucleus from the cytosol. I repeat, this is a protein kinase A, pKa protein. It has 2 regulatory subunit and 2 catalytic subunit. The secondary messenger CAMP comes and binds to the regulatory subunit. It results in the activation of the catalytic subunit, and the catalytic subunit enters the nucleus. Okay, in the nucleus, it is going to activate CREB. CREB is nothing but CAMP response element binding protein. This goes and binds to the DNA, enabling gene transcription. Okay, I repeat, CAMP binds to the protein kinase A and activates the catalytic subunit. The catalytic subunit enters the nucleus from the cytosol. Okay, it converts the inactive CREB to active CREB. Okay, this is very important. Similarly, another G protein. Okay, this was G alpha protein. Okay, yes, G alpha S protein, and this will be your GQ protein. This is going to activate your phospholipase C beta. Okay, this is again the ligand binding to the GPCR. GQ protein activated. What it does is it activates an enzyme called phospholipase C beta. This phospholipase C beta converts phosphatidyl inositol 4,5-biphosphate into DAG and IP3. I repeat, this phospholipase C beta acts on phosphatidyl inositol 4,5-bisphosphate and converts it into DAG and IP3. DAG stands for diacylglycerol, and this is your smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, so this DAG binds to protein kinase C. Okay, and IP3 enters your smooth endoplasmic reticulum and helps in the release of divalent calcium ions. Okay, so this divalent calcium ion goes and binds to the DAG protein kinase C complex and then activates your protein kinase C. which in turn activates many effector responses. Okay, I repeat. So this G protein activates phospholipase C beta, which is an enzyme. It is going to cleave phosphatidylinositol 4,5 bisphosphate into DAG and IP3. IP3 enters the smooth endoplasmic reticulum and helps in the release of Ca2+, and Ca2+ goes and binds to the PKC, that is protein kinase C, to which the DAG would have bound. Now the protein kinase C is active and it helps in various effector responses. Okay. Next, this is very important, calcium calmodulin complex. Calmodulin is a small calcium binding cytosolic protein. First of all, what is calmodulin? Again, questions are asked based on this. Calmodulin is a protein, okay, which binds to calcium. Each calmodulin binds 4 Ca2+ ion. Okay, kinases called calcium calmodulin complex dependent kinases. Fine. So what happens? You have one calmodulin molecule to which we have 4 calcium ions attached. Okay. So calmodulin participates in the regulation of several biological processes like cell motility, exocytosis and cytoskeletal assembly. Okay, this is very important for us, all of us, to understand. So calmodulin is a protein to which the calcium binds, okay, and it participates in various processes, cell motility, exocytosis and assembly of the cytoskeleton, okay. Yes, this is GT. Now we have seen what? We have seen G alpha S, right? Then GQ. Now we are going to see GT. Okay, these are various classes of G proteins. So what happens? This is your GPCR. Okay, GPCR is attached to rhodopsin. Fine. And when light passes, so this basically happens in the rod cells of your retina, that is eyes. Okay, so this basically rhodopsin activates transducin. Okay, then this transducin helps in the production of CGMP phosphodiesterase, which converts CGMP into GMP, and this helps in the closing of the ion channel. So this is the entire process, that is phototransduction of rod cell. What actually happens? First, light. Whenever light falls on this rod cell, there is conformational change in the rhodopsin, which leads in the activation of transducin. Then we have activation of phosphodiesterase. Okay, what does phosphodiesterase do? It converts CGMP into GMP. This conversion of CGMP into GMP reduces the intracellular CGMP levels and it closes all the Na plus ion channels. It results in the hyperpolarization and it will result in decreased release of synaptic transmitter, and that is how it helps in the transduction of signals. Okay. Next, this again a very important both part B and part C question. Mode of action of cholera toxin and pertussis toxin. Cholera toxin is an enterotoxin. Enterotoxin meaning it is going to affect your intestine. Okay, it is a 6 protein subunit, 1A and 5B subunit. So this toxin is made up of proteins. It has 5B subunit and 1A subunit. Okay, this A subunit ribosylates arginine. Okay, it ribosylates arginine residue in the alpha S subunit of G alpha S. So what does this A subunit of the cholera toxin do? It is going to do ribosylation of what? Of the alpha subunit in the G alpha S. So we have studied the alpha, beta, gamma in the GPCR, right? So this A subunit is going to do ribosylation. Okay, and what it does, it keeps this alpha S active always. Okay, it never becomes inactive. Okay, so keeps it active, and CAMP is produced indefinitely. So how is CAMP produced? Adenylyl cyclase enzyme is being activated by this G alpha S, and hence ATP is continuously converted into CAMP, or that is cyclic AMP. That cyclic AMP, what it will do? It will activate protein kinase A. Here we have, right? We have studied. Okay, it's going to activate protein kinase A. Okay. Now that activated protein kinase A is going to phosphorylate your CFTR. What is CFTR? Cystic fibrosis transmembrane receptor. Okay, it will be phosphorylated and all your CFTR channels will be open, and it hence results in diarrhea. Okay, this slide you study, it's very, very important. Questions will be asked both in part B as well as part C. Okay, next. Pertussis toxin, similar one. Okay, here the arginine residue is being ribosylated. Okay, here the cysteine residue in the GI. I will repeat the difference. In cholera toxin, it is the G alpha S, okay, and that is being ribosylated, especially the cysteine residue that is being ribosylated, and the CFTR channels are opened. Okay, in case of G alpha I, in case of pertussis toxin, it's an exotoxin. Okay, it catalyzes the ADP ribosylation of the cysteine. Okay, cysteine amino acid in the alpha subunit in GI. What does GI do? It is going to inhibit adenylyl cyclase production. Okay, ribosylated GI alpha prevents the GI complex from interacting with receptors, and hence it inhibits it is unable to inhibit adenylyl cyclase. That means what? CAMP will be produced more. GI, what it does, it basically inhibits adenylyl cyclase, but in this case, since it's being ribosylated, GI is not able to do its function properly. Okay, and hence the CAMP will be produced in excess number. It opens the channel and again it leads to diarrhea. Okay. Next, GPCR adaptation. How is the GPCR adapted? It is the diminution of receptor signaling in presence of high concentration of ligand. Whenever the ligand is present in a high concentration, the receptor signaling has to be reduced. Okay. First is desensitization. How is it done? How is it done is the question. So loss of response to prolonged or repeated stimulation, caused by phosphorylation of serine and threonine. How is it caused? It is caused by phosphorylation of serine or threonine by kinases called G protein coupled receptor kinases. The serine and threonine residues on GPCRs are being phosphorylated, and hence it loses its response to prolonged or repeated stimulation. Next we have that they are called GRKs. Okay, after which arrestin binds to uncouple receptor and G protein. So the receptor and the G protein will be coupled to each other, right? So once the phosphorylation takes place, this protein called arrestin goes and binds to the GPCR and uncouples them, that is separates them. Okay, then we have internalization. Involves removal of receptors from the cell surface. Okay, it causes phosphorylation. Okay, the internalization means two processes. One is desensitization. We are desensitizing the receptor. The other one is internalizing the receptor and killing the receptor. Okay, it causes destruction. Endocytosis will happen and it is destroyed in the lysosome. Okay, so this part I will tell you again. What is GPCR adaptation? Why is it important? Because it is important so that the cell does not give continuous responses. It is not possible for the cell to always be in transcription or for the cell to be marked for apoptosis. It has to be regulated, right? And that regulation is called GPCR adaptation. It is done by desensitization as well as internalization. Desensitization involves phosphorylation of the residues, that is serine and threonine, and then arrestin goes and binds. It uncouples the receptor and G protein. Okay, other one is internalization. Yes, thank you for watching my video. Do subscribe to my channel, and if you have any feedback, do put it in the comment section. Need all your support for keeping me motivated to do much better videos. Thank you so much.